Welcome to the Menopause Queen Podcast. At the time of recording this, it is May the 1st, 2026, with an incredibly powerful flower moon. Now, why is it called the flower moon? For many years, people have observed that at this time of year, there are beds of flowers, wild flowers, cultivated flowers, but at this time of year they come up and they are abundant. In France, where I live, we celebrate the 1st of May with a bunch of muguet, which is a very beautiful white bell-like flower that is supposed to symbolize abundance, joy, renewal. And in many cultures, the 1st of May is the celebration of life. To the extent that people don't work on that day, it is a day of celebrating fertility, of celebrating joy and abundance, and it kind of marks a point in the year where people stop and take stock of what life is all about. The reason I am mentioning this is because the 1st of May and this idea of renewal, of joy and abundance, of taking stock, coupled with the fact that at this particular point in astrology, there is a Scorpion energy around with Pluto in the background, and all of that means that there is quite a lot of deep digging into the darkness, but the death part, the leaving behind part, the darkness part is all for the positive, because you will be creating out of the ashes, you will be transforming out of the challenge, and that is exactly, Queens, what the menopause is all about. When you arrive towards that point in your life, culturally, in the West, people like you to believe that this is the end of something. But in many cultures, in Asia and in the East, menopause is not even a word. The symptoms that people experience are much less, because culturally they don't have the same influence on the women in those cultures. And as such, instead of it being a death and a closing down and a destruction and a dark time, it becomes a very positive second spring, new life, where wisdom is actually honoured. And this is slightly inspired by my mother, who made a comment a couple of weeks ago saying, I'm in my 80s and I have so much knowledge and so much wisdom, but no one cares. Now that's potentially our culture, my culture in the West, but in the East, that's not so much the case. It's where wisdom, where age is actually a valued commodity. So why am I saying this? Because if we simply shifted our perspective and started to ignore some of the cultural norms and messages about the fact that you've reached your 50s, you are in the menopause, you are no longer fertile, therefore you are no longer useful to society, is the underlying message, very much like The Handmaid's Tale. If we shifted the perspective and started to think that actually in my 50s, my 60s, my 70s, my 80s, I can actually step into my power. The reason that I came here. Now, often we get confused about what that reason is, right? Because we're going through this whole transformative time where there are physical symptoms because maybe society and maybe our bodies are telling us that it is time to shift and change. Maybe that linear approach to productivity and fertility is not the message that you need to be holding right now. Maybe This is the time where you not only step into your authenticity and into your power, but you start actually manifesting that on the outside. I know for a fact that when I was going through the menopause, things had to change. Physically, I wanted things to be different. Mentally, I wanted things to be different. Energetically and spiritually, I needed things to be different. But sometimes we get confused about what those messages are. And when I guide women through the menopause or through any shift and change in their life, I call myself a life alignment coach, because I don't ask anybody to radically change anything. Very often it's just shifting perspective and changing the focus and maybe tweaking just a little bit certain things. Maybe doing something that we're really bad at as women, just letting go of some things, just not doing them anymore. Learning how to say no, learning how to eliminate things is not necessarily something that we're naturally good at, because we want to be maternal, we want to take care, we want to englobe everybody in that positive, in that loving, in that nurturing energy. But when you reach the menopause, it is the time that you would like your body, your life, your mind, your energy to start nurturing yourself. To start not giving a shit. To start really focusing on what is right for you. Because for so many years, we have not done that. Valuing your knowledge, valuing your value, valuing your wisdom, taking off all the layers, looking at all the wounds and the challenges and all the different things that you've gone through as songs, as part of your story, but they don't have to define you going forwards. The menopause is a time when you sit there with your own wishes, with your own desires, and encourage your own personal growth. This is your time. Now, I'm going to leave you with a story that I told recently in one of my Instagram posts. And actually, my French account had the most views for this post that it's had in many months. And I think it's because it's a very simple but very powerful story. And it's about what trees can teach us for personal development, and particularly, I think, for the menopause. When a tree grows, it grows in two directions. It has to plant its roots, and then it has to grow upwards and outwards. So the roots, though, you have to fight to create those roots. You have to push into the mycelium network and into the ground and create the strong grounding roots. And then from that, you rise up into your trunk, into your branches, into your leaves, into your fruits, into your flowers, whatever type of tree that you are. And you might think that once the roots have been established, then the tree just kind of carries on growing, and every year sheds its leaves, and every year manifests again that beauty. But a tree never stops growing its roots. It never stops working on its foundation. And in fact, will spread its roots out underground, as well as down deep into their base, into their foundation, into their authenticity, so that they can grow, manifest, and be even more splendid. Not necessarily growing in height, but growing in width, in depth, in beauty. Now, what better metaphor for the menopause than that? The menopause is the shift in your life where you can really hone in on, what are my roots? Who am I authentically? What is my truth? And how can I ground into that even more? And then, how can I grow and manifest out from that space? Not necessarily in height, not necessarily in progress and linear form. But how can I create? How can I manifest? How can I shine outwardly? I heard also recently a group of older women talking about creativity and saying that when you create, you are never closer to the divine than at that point. But one of them jokingly said, and people say to me, yeah, but I can't paint. I can't paint the Mona Lisa. And she said jokingly, you don't need to. It's already been painted, which I love for a start. But then she said, but creativity is everything. It's dressing yourself. It's gardening. It's painting your home. It's just arranging ornaments in your house. It's creating a window box. That's creativity. And the moment you're doing that, you connect yourself to something that is actually deeply spiritual without doing anything radically ceremonial. So, now is the time to root down into your authenticity, particularly with this very beautiful flower moon, to celebrate the life that is within you. It is a privilege to get old and go through this beautiful transition and evolution in your life. So ask yourself this question: what do I wish to manifest in this very stunningly beautiful chapter of my life? Thank you for listening. I have deliberately not done a video for this particular episode because it's so much more powerful to have the audio or in the visual, just to have nature, just to have sunsets, sunrises, forest scenes. This link to nature is absolutely vital in our development as a civilization, but particularly as queens going through the menopause. Have an amazing day.